this computer. Hello, everyone. Oops. Hello, everyone. This is Ed Susevich, and welcome to another fantastic episode, brand new episode here of Savannah on Film. And I'm your host, Ed Susevich, and let me tell you why we're here. Our purpose is to explore the economic and cultural impact of the film industry in Savannah through conversations with people who work in the industry and related fields. We are here on WRUU 107.5 FM LP, Savannah Soundings, community radio with global soul. Also, remember that WRUU, always say that so fast, is on Twitter at WRUU 1075, WRUU 1075. And this is a new show. This is an important show. And since it's an important show, I had to bring on someone who's important to me and important in the industry, my good friend, Scott Schreiber. And welcome to Savannah. Welcome back to Savannah on Film.
Thank you, sir. Been a while, but
yeah,
glad to do it, even under these circumstances.
Yeah, and thank you for making the time. We're coming back with these new shows. We're not in studio. We're at my home studio trying to work this out. But there's looking behind the curtain. But you're going to hear this when you're hearing this. It'll be on the radio, and we'll be back in studio soon at WRUU doing interviews. But so right now we're dealing with this pandemic, and it's something that's not just rocked the world. It's rocked the entire everything, the film industry that we're concerned about, the film and TV industry. Everything is, screeched to a halt. There's so much worry, so much panic out there, but I know we're going to find a way because people want entertainment. They need it in their lives, and we're just not going to let a pandemic stop us, but we're going to come back with smarter ways. And what we're going to be covering today comes down from May 22nd. Governor Brian Kemp of Georgia, he put out this filming best practices thing. And this is a little booklet there I'm putting up so you can see it on the video there. And it's the state of Georgia film and television production best practices to reduce contagion of COVID-19. And we reached a milestone in the U.S. 100,000 people plus have passed away since February, March of this year, which is just unfathomable. And even though people are kind of going back to a new kind of normal, it's this packet is designed to help the film industry figure out how we get back there and how we get back there safely. My friend Scott here, he's let me tell you a little bit about him. He's been a second assistant accountant on season 1 of Underground Railroad, Lady and the Tramp, the wonderful Disney feature, accounting clerk on Gemini Man, and also on Living the Dream season 1. And we first worked together. He was also an accounting clerk on Galveston. So, and plus some other projects that Scott's worked on. So anyway, I just wanted to, I'm glad to have Scott back here. We usually a podcast on my Geek on World podcast. So this is kind of fun having you in here.
More official, huh?
More official or whatever. Yeah, as official as can be. I've got my Savannah on Film shirt that someone got me there, and I appreciate it. And
no, I'm happy to be here. We're going to be talking about how the industry can move forward during the pandemic. I come from more of an office background. We'll be talking about on-set and office here today, but I kind of give that other perspective of being in the office, and there's so many little things that we're going to have to change for our everyday, work, our everyday work and habits on set and in the office. So,
well, it's just as important behind the camera, what you do in front of the camera. I'm just going to look here. I'm just kind of going through the packet here. One thing that it does mention is that you can visit georgiafilmacademy.org for information regarding some of these processes for returning to this new procedure, returning to work. Georgia Film Academy .org, and also, of course, the CDC website there. And this is something we've taken seriously. I know some people that I know someone, a friend whose father passed away from it. I mean, we all, eventually this whole pandemic's touching all of us in some way, shape, or form, and some more than others. But what I want, and I'm skipping around a little bit here because it's kind of an emotional thing when you talk about all this, but in addition to these recommendations that are included in this document here that the governor put out, the Georgia Film Academy is offering a COVID-19 safety training course at no cost to Georgia productions. So
That's great.
And and more information about that, of course, is at www.georgiafilmacademy.org. So I wanted to get
that's fantastic. And you and I both have had experience with GFA programs, so definitely proud that they're, helping us move forward and educating people on how to be cleaner and safer in the industry to move forward. And because we've got to get back to work. I understand a lot of people have died, and it is, we have to be careful. We have to stop the spread, but we also have to make a living. This whole industry is shut down. There's so many of us just sitting at home. So, it's glad to see that we've got this
how many times I can
to get going.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't know how many times I can disinfect the house and wash my hands. I'm going crazy.
Yeah, no, this first page of the these guidelines is all of that kind of common sense stuff. I mean, maybe it's not common sense to everybody, but washing your hands, not touching your face, all these good things that you need to do to stop the spread, so to speak. But yeah, GFA doing the free training on that. That's fantastic.
That is fantastic. And our instructor was John Grace, and I'm not sure if he's directly involved with that, but a great thing that they're doing. Their Georgia Film Academy is doing. So just go to that website if you're interested in that. So obviously, here's some preventative measures that can be taken against COVID-19. Frequent hand washing. This is nothing new. This is what we've heard. PPE, the personal protective equipment. And this is talking about workers on set. It is including but not limited to goggles, face shields, and masks that cover the nose and mouth.
Wow.
Which is going to be interesting.
It is. I mean, obviously on set, you're working in close proximity with people. So, the 6 feet apart is not, going to happen most of the time. So, people are going to have to wear masks if we're going to work safely. So, yeah,
it's just, I don't know how this is going to affect everything. And it's just, I don't know. These are crazy times. So, and I'm doing this in the video, but I'm isolated here in my studio as we're doing this. But avoid touching your face, which I'm terrible about that. But I'm trying to be.
We both probably been doing it
because no one ever does that on a set, right? And control sneezing and coughing. Disposable face masks should be disposed of in enclosed bin receptacles. So there's going to be a lot of safety procedures.
There's going to be new ones. What I thought was interesting was, I don't know if we got to it yet. Maybe it's later on, but no, you're going to have a checkpoint when you get there, and
temperature
take temperature and all that. You're going to have somebody, a designated area for packages to be, like there's a lot of little things that are going to have to be thought about and changed here. So,
and, I'm one of those people that, I'll shake your hand, people I'm very close to, I'll give hugs, and, I'm just that kind of person. And it's weird for, you've got to learn not to be that way in a sense. So it's, I'm looking at this,
something as simple.
Avoid handshakes, kisses, hugs, opt for digital call sheets So this is where technology is going to take more of a
which
front
is
role.
mostly done. I mean, that's mostly done already anyway. You know, most people get a digital copy
Right.
and a physical copy. So now we just kind of cut out that other half. So
And if you have it on your phone, remember you can't share objects such as mobile phones, computers, pens, work tools, etc. of another person. They should be avoided.
yeah, see now that's the little minutia there that's going to be problematic. Just
Work,
sharing a pin, as simple as sharing a pin, is problematic.
so
So
let's say you're in the office there in accounting and your pen runs out. You're writing some notes or doing whatever, signing something, and you're like, "Hey, can I borrow a pen?" You know, you
nope.
can't do that. You know,
No,
it's
you gotta go to the office supply cabinet and wipe it down after
basically.
taking it out. I
Um,
mean, there are a lot of little steps we're gonna have to do. I
at the
mean,
radio station, I have not physically gone to the radio station since the pandemic myself. Done that, but they were taking a lot of safety measures at our radio station to make sure the mics were cleaned down. Being a sound mixer, wow, alcohol wipes are your best friend anyway, and they're definitely going to be, you know, a big thing, like putting a mic pack on someone, approaching that person. You know, the protocol and doing that, you know, is already,
yeah.
you know, it's already, you just don't approach somebody, you know, he's like, I'm about to do this, I'm about to mic you here, you know, you want to be respectful of that person's space. And now with 6 feet, I don't know
Right,
how
you're right.
you mic someone, you know,
That process changed already with me too, and now we've got COVID, too.
right,
So it's
you know, and
and
it's,
which is all for the better, of course.
it is all for the better. And, you know, we all want to, um, avoid all these bad things. We don't want it to spread. One of the things in here says the use of private and individual transportation should be encouraged. In case of use of public or shared transportation, masks should be worn and social distancing requirements should be adhered to as much as possible.
Yeah,
So,
the whole transportation issue is definitely interesting. We'll get to a note on transpo a little later, but about how many people they allow in passenger vans. But there's so many little, like, just getting a ride from base camp to set.
right.
There's so many shuttles that I've packed into those vans with 10, 12 deep. 12 people in a van, and now I think they're limiting it to two, and you have to wear a mask, and they're saying leave your window, or the transfer drivers are supposed to leave their windows unrolled to increase ventilation. Yeah, try that in the summer in Savannah. They're not going to
And
want to roll down their windows.
one of the last things on page 4 here of the preventative measures to be taken against COVID-19 is identify who may effectively be able to work from home for portions of prep, shoot, and wrap.
Sure, and there are a lot of people that can. Obviously, your on-set people can't. Most, camera, grip, all that, so they have to be there. But a lot of the office people could possibly do their work from home. I mean, as long as I have my accounting software and I'm being sent the appropriate documents, I could probably do my job from home.
Yeah. And checks, you know, can be direct deposited.
Yeah.
There's a lot of ways technology is going to be our friend. And I know this gets a little bit off the subject and it's a little futuristic and probably something that we'll talk about more on my podcast instead, but at some point. But technology moving forward, when we get into like 5G and AI and stuff like that, I think we're going to see more automation, maybe in the industry even, you know, in less, hopefully not less human contact in that sense, you know, because
Yeah,
films are about that
I
that village of people, you know.
I see where you're going with that, but I think in the film industry, I would say there are less things that can be done, by automation, though. So,
Yeah.
I mean, there are some things, but I think it's still a human-based industry that where you need hands, in my opinion.
Right. That's true. So the guidelines for production offices, locations, and other job functions, cleaning visibly dirty surfaces by disinfecting, and facilities should be disinfected in accordance with CDC guidelines. Well, that all makes sense. For electronics, follow the manufacturer's instructions for cleaning. You got to be careful, especially with equipment and stuff, and using 70%, at least the 70% alcohol to disinfect, like touch screens, and the alcohol-based wipes. You got to be very careful with that stuff, and avoid pooling of liquids. Yeah, you just don't want to like douse your equipment, your computer terminal, and
I
something.
mean, they're those little, you can get those plastic shields for your keyboards, and that you can wipe those down, and you can have those kind of covers for all equipment that so you're actually not touching the equipment itself, you're touching the cover. So there are those options. You mentioned how the facilities are going to need to be cleaned more.
Right.
The offices, I know, we had a cleaning crew there every night. And it's basically the same at the studio spaces. Well, not studio spaces, I say quotation marks. Our locations. But they're going to have to step it up. I'll speak from experience. There are times where we didn't have enough hand sanitizers, soap, paper towels, little things like that. Now that's going to be a little more mandatory, and we can complain about that and actually be hurt. Because I don't think that little things like that didn't necessarily always get done, and this will bring the attentiveness up, the the attention level, and hopefully everybody can and it's not just the cleaning staff. I'm not
No.
on them. It's everybody. We've got to
everybody becomes a cleaning staff person, the way I look at it. You clean your space, which you kind of should anyway. These are like kind of best practices anyway, but we kind of have to go a little extra in these steps. Everybody has to be involved in the process, because all it takes is one person. And one of the biggest things, I'm sure it's mentioned in here, is don't come to work sick. In the industry, we're used to 12, 14, 16-hour days. The show must go on. How do you tell someone it's making good money, union or not? How do you tell them not to come to work? And they're like, well, I got the mortgage, I got rent to pay, I've got groceries to buy, I can't afford.
Well, that's understandable. But under these guidelines, people won't be allowed to come to work sick.
Right.
I think we're going to get to the on location here in a minute, where we'll talk about that. The guidelines. Like if you come to work and you got a fever, you're going to be sent home. So
this is interesting, and I hadn't even thought of this. The use of elevators should be limited only to people who cannot safely take stairs. Wow. You didn't think of that.
I'll be honest, I've never been on a set with an elevator.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there are. Those exist, probably more so in New York, but I've not seen an elevator on a location yet.
So at the shooting location, they're going to have an occupational risk prevention, or OPR task. They're going to have a specific person assigned to those tasks. So this person is going to verify all the protocols and actions set out in this particular document here, as well as compliance and control of documentation derived from the management of occupational risk prevention. So depending on the size of your shoot, it's going to depend what the needs of that person will be. But they're going to be responsible for setting up all these systems and checking it. So, it's kind of like going, I imagine it going through the airport, maybe getting your temperature checked, making sure you're not sick, and making sure you have all the
This
protocols.
Is the first time I'm going to mention this. And of course, I'm coming from an accounting point of view, but this is where I see, added cost, and not that it's not necessary. I think this is necessary. There needs to be someone on set, you're making sure everybody's being safe. I think this is necessary, but here's the question. Do we hire, an independent specialist that does this, or is just the set medic going to take up these this job.
Yes, is set medic going to be overwhelmed with hundreds of people that one set medic can't get to, or that's going to put a lot on a set medic. And then do you pay them differently? Do they get there's so many variables in all of this. And, or do you get someone that's totally independent of, they have to understand how the film industry works, but then the film industry has to understand how these safe, things will work in conjunction with these new protocols and everything. So, because like this, it says, in case of presenting as essentially a symptomatically associated person with COVID-19, which is like fever, general malaise, coughing, that worker should inform his or her corresponding supervisor, and the production should isolate and send the person home with a recommendation that they contact a medical provider.
And this is actually the best thing. Hold on real quick.
Yeah, sorry.
This is the best thing that I've read in here, honestly, is that the fact that they're going to be taking temperatures and monitoring as you go. Is it going to be a pain? Maybe. I mean, especially if you have a large crew, it's going to take forever for everybody to get in. You're going to have to show up an hour before your call time. Right. But, it's obviously it's needed. And I think that the more people get tested, and obviously this is just thermometer, it's not testing. You would think maybe we would have access to some testing, though. Maybe not. Maybe it'll just be, hey, go to the doctor and, figure it out. And, but at least if you have a 100.4 temperature, I think it said, if you have that or higher, you're getting sent home. You're not going to endanger anybody. When
honestly, under regular,
people have worked with a fever, especially making that money and working those long hours. You don't want to give up any time. You're
I know a lot of these productions will take it seriously, but what worries me are the independent productions. Is there going to be as much supervision on that, or is this just saying, okay, here's your best practices, we strongly suggest that you follow them? But we've all been on those student films or those low budget, non-budget films early in our careers, and people cut corners and all that. Right. Safety, you can never cut a corner on, because
you're just going to assume that the union shows are going to have all the guidelines and adhere to it. You assume. Maybe not the case. But yeah, you're right. When you get into the non-union and the low budget, and you may have some people that are still going to cut corners. So, but that you have that in every industry, and that's just something we're going to have to deal with, and hope it doesn't impact too much.
Well, what's interesting, I wonder if people are going to take this as, is this against my constitutional right? I hope people don't think of it that way. They need to think more than themselves, especially when they're in a production. You're going to have to not say to the person, "Do I look okay? I'm okay. You just took my temperature." You know what I mean? Those people, that want to, kind of slide by on things, and you can't be that way. You have to take this seriously, and it's gonna be radically different. But this document is helping, I think, try to get things as close to what we're used to.
That's another part of the navigation of this, is you're going to have people that don't take the virus seriously. You're going to have people that take it very seriously, and you're going to have to balance that, so.
And just kind of, because we're trying to move through some of this information, and like for casting, there's going to be, they suggest no more open calls, basically, that they can be done. They can be done via, whatever social media client you have, you know what I'm saying? Like Zoom or whatever you use, Skype or whatever, And so I don't imagine in this time, as long as you're healthy, I mean, you can basically do that over the internet. You don't need to see that person.
You can, and even if you do it in person, it can just be more regimented. You can have people say, you're supposed to show up at 2:00. This person needs to show up at 2:15. So they can space it out. And
entering trailers. I mean, what if you're in a trailer, in a small office, are you going to be 6 feet apart and you've got one way in, one way out? I mean, how,
Yeah.
do you have to say, what happens if you accidentally, you know, because people bump into each other. We're not
Yeah.
automaton robots. It's going to be hard
Right.
to,
But again, keep in mind that the science of this is 6 feet apart for 15 minutes, straight.
right.
So it's fine to go by somebody, I mean, it's not like if you brushed up against somebody, you're definitely going to get it, I
Right.
mean,
Exactly.
and I'll say, like, I've, in all the offices I've worked in, I'm typically 6 feet away from the next person. I think maybe on Living the Dream, I was a little closer than that to the first assistant, but I know on the last few shows I've had enough space. Reading about like the hair and makeup trailer and stuff like that, that's kind of
Yeah.
funny. Like, how do you,
How do
you really need
you,
a big trailer and space them out,
and when
that's
you're fitting the actors in their, their costumes, and you have to make those adjustments, you'll both have masks on. Like the talent here, they're supposed to 6 feet supposed to be maintained. Consider using a clear barrier between actors while establishing marks and positions to be removed at the
oh, wow.
last moment.
That's interesting. A clear barrier, like like the pane of glass that that stunt people run through. Is that what
Basically,
you're saying?
or plexiglass or something. I don't, I'm sure it'd be something like that.
That's interesting. Hey, whatever
maybe
works,
some
getting
positions
creative, huh?
maybe there will be more positions, like, maybe you'll have more utilities, like in the sound department, like one person is in charge of all the labs, and maybe, maybe they'll mic certain talent, and then maybe your other utility will do that, and your boomer might do one or something, there's so many within departments. You got to figure out how it works. And
Well, you're definitely going to see departments being segregated even more so. I mean, you already see it to a degree where it's always a little bit cliquish, but this will keep people even more separated. It's like, okay, camera's got to stay with camera gear,
right.
electric and grip, and need to stay over here. And, but that's how we get through, huh?
Yeah, that's a lot. Background actors, which I did a little background acting on Cancel the Dads, which is actually when we're recording this is actually the night it's actually gonna that episode's gonna show on TV. So I'll either be
Oh,
famous or not.
your episode is tonight?
Yeah, it's coming on tonight. When
Oh,
we're
fantastic.
recording this, when you
You
hear
were at
this on the radio, in other words, it'll already have happened. But yeah, tonight. So
you're in the crab shack scene?
I'm in the crab shack scene, and I don't
All
want to say any
right,
more
we will
about
be
the scene. I
looking.
don't want to ruin it. No spoilers. But for background actors,
Spoiler, they
it
eat
says,
crab.
well, and see, and this could be. I mean, I've heard some people, on the far end of things saying background actors are gone, from this point on.
Well,
I don't
maybe
think that's true.
not
Completely.
entirely, but they're going to be limited. They're absolutely going to be limited.
This is what the document says. If possible, reduce the number of extras required. Provide enough space and tables and chairs for extras, holding areas to practice social distancing.
And that's the big thing here is you have to have a holding area where every single background actor can stay 6 feet apart from the other. So if you
It's
have
like
a
herding
big,
cats, right?
yeah. So
So,
that's a big issue. You're definitely going to see writers find ways to not have extras. I'm sorry, background actors.
or if you've got the budget for it, you'll digitally put, actors
Sure.
in there.
Yeah,
And the one
cardboard
last thing
cutouts
is,
like they're doing at the sporting events.
let's talk about supplies, because I bet you there's an added cost to a lot of this, and one would be pens. Provide a pen for each extra to execute paperwork and instruct them not to share.
Yeah. I know. I mean, it seems like a
I
simple
know, but
thing.
it makes sense. We're not making fun of it, but
No, but here's the thing. Like, there have been productions where we've gotten so much pushback on expensive pens. Like basically, like if you're not buying a box of Bics, we're not buying these pens for you. So there are
Right.
already kind of productions that have been strict about that already, and now we're supposed going to have to provide every background actor with a pen to do their paperwork. So I don't know. It's a little
I
extreme, but
feel like that could be eliminated if there was some kind of universal app that maybe that production could use. Like this is, I'm giving away a free secret here, and someone's going to run away with it, making $1 billion, and it'll be the new standard. But you heard it here first. But they need to develop an app, and then for each production, like you have certain, how you give certain permissions throughout, and everybody uses this app that's on set. And like if you have to sign any paperwork, you have to input your time, you'll do it on your individual phone through the app, and it'll be sent electronically. You know how things go to.
honestly, that would that would make everything easier, obviously, and to begin with. So I'm kind of rooting for that. Wouldn't it be great if we could all just do electronic time cards and
But yeah, it would be.
electronic
But what about paper trails? Because paper trails for taxes, and when you know more about that, dealing with the accounting side of it. So how does all, let's say we could completely go all electronic and no more paperwork. You wouldn't need a pen in your office, which is probably an impossible thing to think. But do you foresee that ever being a possibility, or just maybe a push a little bit more to the digital? I don't know.
completely digital. I don't see how you could do completely digital.
Yeah.
On Lady in the Tramp, we actually had a digital purchase order system, which was one of the best things I worked with. That basically there were like everything was electronic. All the approvals were electronic, so you didn't have to send the approvals around for signature. The signatures were electronic. So that was one of the greatest systems I've worked on yet. So there are going to be these software, improvements we can make and do. I don't think we can go completely digital, but there are already software and systems in the works that can help us do that.
Well, we're going to go catch a break here, a few announcements here, but we're coming back and we're talking about some of the fun stuff like craft services, catering, and transpo, the fun stuff, especially the food. So we'll be right back in a moment with Scott Schreiber here and myself, Ed Susich, here on Savannah on Film.
Now you have a chance to support both Savannah independent artists and WRUU during this shelter-in-place order to stop the spread of COVID-19. Creatives in Need is a group of independent artists hosted by the Roots Up Gallery, which is collaborating with WRUU during this shelter-in-place to offer an online art gallery at www.rootsupgallery.com. For every work of art sold at this online gallery, the artists receive 80% from the sales and 20% goes to WRUU and its programs like Art on the Air. Interested listeners can go to www.rootsupgallery.com to start shopping today. This is a message from the Georgia State Department of Public Health. Social distancing means minimizing contact with people. It also means that if you are near someone in public, try to stay at least 6 feet away. The less contact people have with one another means the less opportunity for the virus to spread. Slowing the spread of the virus means that we can keep our healthcare system from becoming overwhelmed. More information can be found at dph.georgia.gov.
WRUU brings you the most diverse and passionate local radio programming on the air in Savannah. This all-volunteer and nonprofit community radio station accepts no money from any form of government. Our diversity and independence is made possible only through the generous financial support of listeners like you. We rely on your annual and ongoing monthly contributions to cover the many costs associated with bringing you our broadcast and web programming. If you are a contributor, thank you. If you're not yet a contributor, please show your appreciation of the role WRUU plays in your life by becoming a contributor in any amount. You can donate quickly and easily by credit card or check. Just find the donate and subscribe links at wruu.org. Thanks for listening to and supporting WRUU.
This is WRUU-LP, Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings, community radio with global soul.
And we're back here on Savannah on Film. I'm your host, Ed Susevich, and I've got from the accounting department here, Scott Schreiber, good friend and professional gentleman here. Great guy. He's worked on a myriad of features and all. So welcome back. So
Thank you, Ed.
Okay, thank you. So now I promised we'd talk about food, my favorite subject, catering. And we're going off of, just in case you're joining us now, we're going off of, and I'm just showing it on the video here, but I'm sorry, got to work on that camera work there. But this is the state of Georgia film and television production best practices to reduce contagion of COVID-19. And this was set forth by Governor Brian Kemp in Georgia, announcing a best practices guide for helping us reduce the spread of COVID-19 when all these productions do resume. And I know the Directors Guild of America, they're looking at a lot of things on their end, how they, and a lot of the unions especially, are in guilds, they're looking at how all these protocols will be set up. And I know we have these set up by Georgia. I wonder if, I haven't heard, and I haven't researched this yet, if there's any additional protocols that might be added to it. But this seems pretty thorough here with what the governor and Georgia Film has come up with. So
yeah, it's a good start, and I think that as we get on set and into the office, we'll probably learn some things that we need to amend. But I think it's a pretty good guidelines to staying safe and healthy as we should be. And
one of the things we talk about on we're talking about is the food being out. You have to have the 6 foot distancing when people go, and for the catering you have to have it says give advisory. It is advisable to give priority to portable chairs over standard benches. So they're like things that can be broken down, cleaned quickly, and replaced for catering, so it's all about social distancing. A continuous meal schedule should be established so that the crew can eat in shifts and more easily respect the recommended safety distance of 6 feet. And there'll be hand washing stations. They should be made available. And of course, they'll probably be everywhere. And
that could prove, doing the shifts, eating in shifts could prove difficult. It could be, there could be some producers and supervisors that have dealt with that before and done it. I've never been on a production where they did that, but I'm sure it can be done. Making sure everything's takeaway, instead of sitting there.
That's good.
Sitting, because they usually have those little pop-up dining areas where you're all sitting on top of each other. So it'd be interesting to see if you just take your food and go sit in a corner or go sit somewhere under a tree.
Yeah, or they can just treat you like you're not union on set, and you have to sit by yourself all alone. And will you be my friend?
There's some crew too that say, lunch break? When did I get a lunch break?
Lunch breaks. I wondered about that. I was going to mention that. This could definitely put an end to any kind of meal penalties. But it may take longer to actually get people to lunch and from lunch. And, they may have to be staggered lunches. You may have lunch may be this ongoing portion of the day. I mean, and God forbid you get a Fraturday or something, or God knows. I mean,
but that was another added cost that I was talking about added costs, more to-go boxes for the catering company. That's going to be an added expense. You got hand washing stations everywhere. That's going to cost something. So,
And to fill those
I'm not
hand washing
saying,
stations.
and don't get me wrong here, I'm not saying that we should not be spending money on this. We're just going to be having to allocate the funds differently. Instead of more going to certain departments, more is going to have to go to COVID prevention. And, smart producers, smart accountants can make that happen, and it's not going to affect us too much. But I'm just saying there are added costs here. We go down through all these departments and little things. I mean, there's I think when we get to camera, there's little baggies for every battery and all that stuff. It's those things add
it's
up.
going to be similar that way in the sound department too, and it's like the transmitters, you're going to have a transmitter that's going to go for one specific actor, and you're not going to be able, unless you take it away and clean it, very properly, will you be able to give it back to that person, and they'll, you're still going to have to social distance. It's, a lot of smaller productions. I don't mean to cut you off there, but
no, it's okay.
I've seen mention, well, don't use wireless, which
right.
isn't a complete answer, because you can't get the boom everywhere. But maybe you get on smaller things, you get more than one boomer. Maybe instead of you get another utility, you get another boomer, and then which the sound people, the sound mixer is going to have to, how's that going to affect their bottom line, and making sure that they have more booms than they have. You can't hand out this, and then you have to hand out headphones. And I've seen a gentleman that I follow, I'm not going to mention right now, but and I've seen some other professionals doing this, how they set up their kits, and at least in the sound department, and how they literally have the Ziploc bags, and they have the transmitters in there with already packaged up little alcohol wipe, and et cetera, et cetera. And so there are ways to do it, but the expense versus the inconvenience, we're just going to have to eat some of that in, just so we can stay safe and working. I mean, and taking care of each other.
Yeah, absolutely.
Real quick on craft services, and you kind of touched on this, but consider providing only individually prepackaged portions. So it's disposable. You throw it in the proper trash container or recycling or whatever. I wonder if there'll be recycling, because, if someone has COVID and they're not showing signs, and they get on set, let's say they don't have a fever, but they were, you don't know. That's a big question mark until, we may have a vaccine by the time we go back. We don't know.
They're not going to stop the recycling process. So, that's just part of it. It says here also that they're going to eliminate any self-service fruit or snack bowls. Now, that upsets me. The fresh fruit. Now, that might actually save money, not buying fresh fruit.
Fruit's expensive, but it's better for you.
Not being able to go to craft service and get an orange or a banana or little things like that are, going to be sacrifices we're going to have to make, but are going to be frustrating.
I see those big 48 or whatever, packages or whatever of the individual little potato chips. Those will probably be the thing now, and you just grab your individual bag. And so let's get into a fun one. Transportation. Let's talk about transpo. You want to?
Because we mentioned this earlier. This was an interesting one, because it's like you got these big
now
12 passenger vans. I doubt we'll be renting 12 passenger vans if we can only take 2 people in per van.
Right.
And that's the guideline, right? It says no, passenger.
Passenger. Okay.
That can't include the driver. 2 passengers.
Okay. Attempt to limit the number of people in a passenger van to 2 passengers.
Going to be driving this daisy all over the place. Going to be like a big passenger van taking 1 person at a time around. 2's kind of ridiculous, but 1's really ridiculous.
Drivers should wipe down inside of van, seats, handles, etc., inside and out every time people exit the vehicle. And then there's CDC recommendations. every time. And
Every
the one
time. You
time
think
that person doesn't do it could be the one time someone
you
gets
know,
infected.
don't get me wrong. You know, I love my transpo guys.
Oh, yeah.
You know, but how many of them are going to do that every time? You
They're
know,
going to have
hopefully
to.
they will. Well, yeah, but who's going to enforce that?
You know, I should not
let's
say
hope they
this
do
on
it.
the radio, but being a guy, I go to the restroom and I'm amazed how many gentlemen, when they're done, you know, let's say 10-1, everybody knows what a 10-1 is. It's in the industry. I'm amazed how many people just in the world men do not wash their hands on a regular basis. This is pre-COVID. Okay. So, you know, do we become militant about, did you wash your hands? As I'm 6 feet over here, the skin's coming off my hands. Did you wash your hands? You know, we got to
Well, I
police
mean,
ourselves.
yeah, I
Essentially.
mean, I think so. I think we've all got to make these changes. So
Yeah.
I think, you know, you see people wearing masks in cars right now, and I think it's kind of funny when they're wearing masks in the car and they're by themselves. But you know, in this case, when you're in a van with other people, I get it. It's going to be mandatory to wear them.
It's like the drivers, the Uber and Lyft and all those. I mean, the protocols have changed dramatically for them, of course, you know,
Sure.
taking passengers. And so that's going to be similar in some ways to how transpo works. And what if you have two people driving a rig, you know, a big rig on the film set? Can only one person be in the cab?
Well,
Or
it typically doesn't happen. You
it
typically
doesn't?
have
Okay.
you typically have one person assigned to each truck.
Okay. Well, that solves that.
But it's a good point though.
So the thought, wardrobe department, fitting should take place offset or remotely whenever possible. Can you see that over a Zoom call trying to tell the person
Right.
here, how much inches is that we have to take in or take out of this, you know, and, oh, I need you to, on your left shoulder, you've got some dust right there. No, you're not, you know, it's like,
Yeah.
I
No,
wonder how.
every department's going to have their challenges, but I think, wardrobe, hair and makeup, they're going to have maybe the hardest time because they are, you know, in contact, you know, close person to
Exactly.
person contact. So, but yeah, they're going to ask people to get, you know, to get in wardrobe at home. You know, they're just going to have to do that. I just, you know, you've got every costume is going to have to be bagged individually. I mean, just all these little things. It's going to be a lot of costs there. You know, obviously you've got, what else does this say? Oh, the period costumes, those can't be washed. So
Yeah.
it's like, what do you do with those? It's like, it says that they got to be in quarantine. What does that mean? Costumes that cannot be cleaned, such as period costumes, should be quarantined. Does that mean you can't use them at all? Or they're burnt? You burn them after using.
I don't know, you know. Well, what you won't have them for memorabilia. There'll be no memorabilia from 2020 on from films, you know. No more
Well, and
Dorothy's
that's
red slippers or anything like that. You know, they'll burn the
obviously, I'm
slippers.
being facetious with period costumes because hell, most of those are going to be, you know, actually worth a pretty penny because they're vintage. But
Right. Art department, encourage location owners to reduce personal items until they wrap. Interesting.
which when I read that, I was like, okay, why is art department getting singled out on that? But I don't know.
Consider reducing the number of prep and strike days to try to combine these days with location cleaning times.
That makes sense. I mean, the art department's usually there, you know, when they're not shooting. So,
we've got the art department crew should be allowed additional time to sanitize props, furniture, set dressings that come into contact with cast and the crew.
So more cost, added labor time.
So now they're going to be they're going to be treated like the sound department. Hold for room tone. it'll be hold for COVID cleaning.
Yeah,
I don't
right.
know. I'm not making fun of it. I'm just saying, you know, they'll understand.
You gotta laugh.
Yeah. The handling of key props should be limited to the relevant actors. Makes sense.
You know, right. I mean, that's probably a rule already, but but there
all
it is.
departments are hard workers, but the next group, electric and grip departments, those are the grunts. Those are the ones that can do amazing things. I always think I have a lot of admiration for electrical and grip departments.
Yeah.
They have to take into consideration more gear may be required. That sounds like more cost also
Added
to
cost.
ensure people are not sharing equipment. Ouch.
Yeah,
Sounds
and
like
see,
sound
that's
department, too.
interesting. We're going to see that on camera and sound as well. It's like where every individual needs to have a kit. That's a lot of
Are their
added
kit
cost.
fees going to be more expensive too? I would
Yeah.
think, and you can charge more because you may have to charge a cleaning fee. I mean, I don't know, a sanitizing fee. So does that get passed on to the production?
Yeah.
It's a possibility. And then there's they have a wonderful CDC coronavirus disinfecting building facility address there in the pamphlet. It's for best practices of disinfecting grip stands, lights, so all those things, all the equipment's got to be disinfected. I mean, we're going to have the cleanest equipment ever. So everything's going to be shiny and new and clean, hopefully safe.
I think the thing that will help most is probably drinking bleach, but I don't know.
No, it is not, and I know you're joking. We need to wrap up, Scott. Here,
Okay.
we're coming up on the end of the show. This has been great having you here, Scott Schreiber. I appreciate you. But let's kind of wrap up. Hair and makeup, real quick. Avoid providing hair and makeup for background actors if possible. Oh dear. Actually, I went on the set of Council of Dads and waited in the line and went around the little line and everything. And they looked me over and they're like, "You're fine just as way you are." And I'm like, "Wow, I did something right." But
were they giving much touch-ups to background actors anyway?
A little bit here and there, but most people kind of came dressed the way they needed to be, and you just kind of follow what the casting notices say, and I nailed it.
I mean,
so
this makes sense. It's like the background actors aren't supposed to be the focus anyway, so cutting hair and makeup for them makes sense.
Right. Disposable makeup kits with brushes when possible. Some people are very protective of their equipment in the hair and makeup department, and now they're going to have to look at disposable options, and then of course having PPE on all the time.
Again, added cost.
Added cost.
When you're doing disposable things, that's definitely more expensive.
They're just going to have to find a way. Products should be sealed and disinfected with appropriate disinfecting solutions when not in use. That makes sense. Camera department. Cases should be wiped down before loading onto vehicle. Only camera personnel should handle camera gear. If you've ever worked on a set, only camera personnel will handle that gear, especially. Yeah, they're not going to let you near their gear.
It's one of those things I felt
doing here.
No, you're right. It's one of those things I felt was kind of redundant on here. It's like, when do they let other departments touch their stuff anyway?
Personal equipment should be wiped down and all that, and before departure. Sound department, real quick. PPE should be worn for the duration of person-to-person contact. All equipment such as mics and transmitters should be disinfected before and after each use. Mics should be labeled with the name of the user. Utilize boom-only audio when possible.
Yeah, and you had mentioned that earlier, which, you're going to see that where there's less lavalier mics and only a boom being used. Yeah.
Sometimes a lav and doing a plant mic is just, you can get that extra bit that sometimes you don't always pick up with the boom. And I don't know, but yeah, I think it's going to be a boom for boomers. Wow. I said that. Onset communication. We've got to wrap it up really quick here. Devices and replacement batteries should be individually bagged, I think you said, and handed to the user in its bag. Bluetooth and Wi-Fi should be used. 6-foot distancing. Devices such as walkies and mobile technology should be used, which they are, and organizing of the shooting spaces. The The recording area should be marked to ensure that only permitted personnel have access to the shooting space shall have a defined entrance and exit area, and there shall be a designated person. There's another designated person to control such access.
I
Differentiated.
imagine.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I imagine that'll be. They could just get a set PA for that. I don't think they have to get, any specialized person. They'll just have a set PA standing there saying, "You may not enter." He'll be the COVID set PA.
Exactly. Well, that probably would become a position. Yeah. Differentiated and adequately signpost entry and exit areas shall be established in order to prevent people from crossing over. Go towards the light. No, don't. The number of people who will have access to the shooting space will be minimized. Hand washing stations should be made available throughout the filming site. Signs indicating obligation to wash hands should be placed in the toilet area. We don't call them toilets, honey wagons. Efforts to be made to
Yeah, who wrote this? It's a honey.
toilets. So anyway, your resources for this and are additionally, they strongly encourage all cast and crew to educate themselves on the following resources. You can go to the Georgia Department of Public Health. That's at dph.georgia.gov, CDC at cdc.gov/coronavirus 2019 in COVID, such and such is the rest of the address there. And also OSHA. OSHA is always a great source. www.osha.gov/publication/OSHA3990.pdf. And that's going to do it for this episode of Savannah on Film. I want to once again thank my friend and fellow film professional Scott Schreiber, who's done a lot of accounting, second assistant accounting and accounting clerk as such on several productions. And I want to thank you for your insight and for being back on the show. It's always great to have you on.
Of course, Ed. Happy to do it, bud. Stay safe, stay healthy, take care of Cheryl. And
yep. I got to take care of the wife, and who takes good care of me too. And everybody out there, y'all take care of each other, and let's be safe, and let's get through this safely, and let's put this in these new protocols as part of our daily routines. And then we're going to find out that hopefully we're going to all be safer and healthier. And my thoughts and prayers to everybody who's dealing with COVID-19 and where we go from here depends on how we react. And remember, a film set is a village, and so we're all important. And thank you again for joining us here. I'm Ed Susovich, your host here on Savannah on Film. And Savannah on Film, I want to remind you, is a voice for the Savannah film industry. And you've been listening here on WRUU 107.5 FM. We are Savannah Soundings, WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings Community Radio with Global Soul. You have been listening to another episode of Savannah on Film, where we give a voice to the Savannah film community. Please like our Facebook page, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and follow us on Twitter. This program was originally broadcast on 107.5 FM in Savannah, Georgia, and worldwide on www.wruu.org. Join us next time for more intriguing insights into the vibrant Savannah film community here at Savannah on Film. All right. We're still on the video here, still recording. Yeah. So this is after the episode. So anything else you want to say that we hadn't covered? This will be a little extra for the video here.
No, I'm just, happy to see that there are guidelines in place. So we're at least thinking about going back to work. I know most of us have at least been out of work since mid-March.
Yeah.
So we're about almost at 3 months, 2.5, 3 months, where everybody's not working. So it's good to see that we're figuring out a way to get back out there, and we'll continue to learn and grow. I don't want people to be paranoid about this. It's hard not to be. You don't, because you can't see a virus. That's the scary thing about viruses. But but we got to keep going. We got to live. We've got to make a living. We can't just all stay in our houses. So let's figure out a way to move forward.
And I was talking with a fellow film professional, and they were expressing their concern about they're not even sure how to talk about this publicly about COVID-19. But I think hopefully with this episode of the show that we covered these important points laid out by Governor Kemp and the Georgia Film, and because I think we need to talk about things. You don't shy away from difficult things. We need to face this, because this is something that this world has never seen, this industry has never seen to this extent. And I think it's vitally important we get this right. You really kind of only get one chance to get it right. And if any part of the chain breaks down, like if any person within that chain does not do what they're supposed to be doing, if they don't disinfect set equipment, or they borrow a pen and then get someone else contaminated, they take that home to their family, their friends. And if we don't properly have that person or persons when you enter a production, when you enter the set or you enter base camp, and if we're not checking temperatures, we're not making sure we're social distancing and doing and putting forth a lot of these measures, these safety measures, then we're going to put ourselves in a really bad place, and it's going to ripple through our production. The worst thing, it may cost a lot of productions a little bit more to implement all this and make this part of their daily routines, but if they don't, who wants to have half of your crew get sick, or your talent gets sick, right? And nobody wants that. And so it's funny, I've worked a lot with safety in my background, and OSHA compliance and different things, and I know how important it is. And sometimes there's been safety really isn't a priority over other things until something happens. And I used to be the guy working with the files and making sure that things were taken care of best that I could to my abilities. And I always took safety very seriously. And this is just really another form of safety that I think we all have to adhere to. And if we don't.
Well, case in point, it's not the exact same thing, but, this is somewhat like the Sarah Jones, incident. When Sarah Jones died on set, and all the safety implements that were put in place after that, and people were hopefully more diligent. This is the same idea. It's as you said, like, there are going to be some safety officers or whatever, taking temps or being, whether it's the on-set medic or whatever. But that's all well and good, but really the responsibility is on each individual. So that's how we're going to affect change. So
yeah, it's going to come down to everybody doing their part, because like I said, if one person doesn't, then it all falls apart, and we don't need that. What are your thoughts on where do you think we go as an industry? Where do you think, we didn't even talk about, we'll probably talk about this on Geek Homeworld podcast, but what do you think on the other side of like theaters and opening up? I know that's not kind of part of our discussion, but it's kind of based on it. We're talking about getting.
You're asking in general about the theater industry, like actually going to the movies.
Yeah.
Well, I can't believe that it'll go away. There's still an interest, and it'll be there. In what capacity will be interesting. You see AMC, there's speculation of them being bought out by Amazon. I think that the best thing for AMC is probably for somebody to buy them out. They've been able to get enough money to last till November. So hopefully, theaters are open in July and they have from July to November to get some profit. Well, I don't know about profit, but at least, some funds in. You're going to see, we already see more streaming, but obviously we're just going to see it get even bigger. How many streaming services are there now? We just saw Peacock launch. We just saw HBO Max launch this week. Apple, even though again we joke about this, me and you don't know anybody who has Apple TV Plus, but that's out there.
I don't. Jennifer Aniston probably has it because she has a show.
There's even Quibi was an interesting one. Didn't get a lot of subscriptions. I think I don't know if people just didn't get the word or whatever. It's an interesting idea. 10-minute shorts. They had actually some interesting shows on there. Sophie Turner, like she's in a plane crash show or something. I mean, there's some decent stuff on there. Caitlin Olsen, Will Forte have a show on there on Quibi. So, we're seeing all these different platforms that will eat into the theater industry, but it won't kill it. I just can't believe that it'll go away.
I can't imagine a world where it does. I mean, I can imagine a world. I don't want to imagine a world.
Yeah, right.
I miss the theater desperately.
I think, yeah, exactly. I think that we've seen in the past few years anyway, the movies that are successful and that people go see are the blockbusters anyway. Right. So, your more art house films and stuff, they aren't making money at the theaters anyway. So there's still going to be a drive to go see a Marvel movie. There's still going to be a drive to go see, the next Matrix or, or even original content. How excited I am about Tenet.
Yeah, and that's still the first film, first major film we're going to supposedly at this point see.
Right. And I can't wait. And I hope that we're able to go to the theater in some form in mid-July, whether it's, 10 people per theater, whatever. I'll
be hollering at you, waving from the other side of the theater with my oxygen mask on and whatever else I have to have on.
I feel like we all already sit 6 feet apart anyway when we go together. So
I feel like they should take a little bit off the price and actually give the money to us. Just give us a bottle and a rag and we'll just wipe our own seats down and keep that with us.
That's going to be interesting.
Put us to work.
We already have issues with our theaters being clean anyway.
Right. And so, in all fairness, the AMC's here, they were in the middle of a restoration or renovation. They got new sinks and the bathrooms. So they had just started that. What is AMC Plus? I always forget the name of the program. I hadn't used it in so long.
A-List.
A-List. Yeah. With that, they had just before, in like mid-March or February or March, they had just posted their first profit in years.
Right. Now, they had their first profitable quarter. Yeah.
And part of that was they spent about, I think they're about, $5 million in the whole. It could be more than that. It could be 50 million. I don't know.
Well, it was more than that.
Okay. Well, there was a 5 involved. So it's they're $5 in the hole, right?
Yeah. It was probably more like 500 million, but whatever.
But they knew they would be in the hole for a bit, but they were going to come out of it this year. And then the perfect storm of COVID-19 coming on couldn't have hit at a worse time for them because this was their chance. And if they go under and cease to exist, it just, how tragic, I was thinking,
especially if you're talking specifically of AMC, it's definitely tragic for Savannah.
Oh, yeah.
Unless we have some other theater company come in and buy the spaces. Right. I heard somebody that had come in and was working in the Victory Drive theater that shut down. So
because that's been shut down for years. And I remember when that was the nice theater. It was the clean new one theater, and then they just let it kind of go. And then I remember the last time I'd went over there, and then next thing you know, So we basically had to.
That one closed without warning. That was abrupt.
And I don't want to drive to Pooler on the outside of Savannah just to go to the theater. I mean, I don't mind doing it, but the convenience of where we both live, where AMC is perfect.
We go right. We drive 5 minutes and we're at the theater, when opposed to having to go to Pooler, and it's at least 35 for me at least. I think you're a little closer.
95 in the traffic and all that foolishness, and if it's rush hour, forget about it. Pack a lunch because you'll need it, and make sure you have your disinfectant wipes, your face mask, your hand sanitizer.
So, if AMC folds, Savannah is gonna have to pray that another theater company comes in and does the job. I mean, we've needed upgraded theaters anyway. This would be a great time for AMC to go in there and upgrade a couple of those theaters.
Yeah, I mean, you have an extensive list, which I know you're very proud of every single theater. What do you call it? Individual showing.
Each screen, basically.
Yeah. Like, okay, this chair is missing. I'm very impressed with that. And I know they're trying. They're trying. But
yeah, and I understand they have fixed costs now, and it probably doesn't make any sense to do renovations. But if they see a future here, then especially with the theaters here in Savannah, these are not recliner seating. They're not reserved seating.
Right.
There's no kind of premium to it at all.
Except for was it the Big D? Is that the Big D?
Well, yeah, the Big D is, yes. But even that's not recliner. The seats are comfy and the sound is great.
They could really make my life wonderful and just go ahead and make it an IMAX. Make it like the one in Disney that's got 30 screens, or they wouldn't need that many screens, but maybe they would if you have to social distance. You can't put, you can't have sellouts. I mean, you can't sell out a show anymore. I mean,
no.
So
no, I don't remember the last time I went to a completely sold out screening. I mean, there have been some that were close. I was surprised when I saw Downton Abbey, where it was pretty full.
Oh yeah, I went to that, and they had that was where they had the issue, and we watched about 10 minutes of a horror movie.
That's right. They showed you what was it? 5K. The cages meters down. The one where they're in the cages and the sharks. It's the sequel.
Yeah, and we're like, that's not the Dowardress or whatever her name is.
Maggie Smith is in a bikini.
I'm like, and there were a bunch of irate, upset people in that theater, and I was just trying to be calm. I was like, okay, people. But yeah, because we had all these horror slasher previews before, and I'm like, that didn't seem like you should have that on before Downton Abbey, but
yeah, right.
But anywho, all right. So what else you got? Otherwise, we'll bring this to a close. But look, we're giving extra content here to our Savannah on Film listeners. If you're watching the video, you're getting this extra content. So you're getting a little extra time with Scott Schreiber here. Fantastic accountant. Wow. If you get a production, you might need to hire him. And
yeah, I mean, when we get up and running, I'm certainly looking. I had read something about Joey King, the young actress that was in The Act, was here. She's signed on to be in another production here in Savannah.
I know Ben Affleck, he passed through town during the pandemic. I don't know why or how, or maybe he's just visiting. Or
I think he has a house down here.
Does he?
Yeah. What else? I had a thought, and then
you had an Ed moment where it just went away.
We'll just talk about what's hopefully coming back to Savannah. Hopefully we get season 2 of Council of Dads.
Oh yeah.
That's still still not decided yet. We've got Florida Girls season 2 is interesting because they had started prep, but they didn't start shooting. And Pop canceled the series.
Right.
Yeah. I talked to someone, a friend of mine on the crew, about a month ago. So things may have changed, but about a month ago,
Right.
they still hadn't broken down the sets or gotten rid of anything. So they're still hopeful
They're in a
to come
holding
back
pattern.
and shoot season 2.
Mhm.
Even if Pop's not going to air it, they're hoping to find another distributor. So,
And
so
honestly,
hopefully
these
we
days
get,
with shows like that, you could shop them around to a lot of different streaming services.
yeah. So hopefully we get Council of Dad season 2 back. Hopefully Florida Girls season 2 continues. We got this Joey King project that hopefully will come. So, when we get back up and working, hopefully it'll be more than just one production in Savannah, which has been kind of the case here in the last year or so, which has been a little frustrating
Right.
for people in the industry, that it's basically, if you want to work here in Savannah, live and work here in Savannah, you have to be on this one production or you're out of luck and you got to go somewhere else. So
Right.
hopefully we get multiple productions and can get everybody back up and working.
That would be wonderful. Yeah. So, we'll see, and we'll be here reporting it as it happens, I suppose. And, anyway, once again, Scott Schreiber, thank you, Scott, for being on this also video, production here with this extra content we added. And we gotta talk soon, because we're gonna have to get on Geek Home World and do some more on the podcast there. If you're interested, that's geekhomeworld.libsyn.com. But don't forget to check out Savannah on Film on Facebook. You can go over there, like it, and follow. This video, if all goes well, will end up on YouTube, Savannah on Film. It'll also be in podcast form on Anchor and everywhere else you get your podcasts. So this is also Savannah on Film podcast. I've also got my Geek Home World podcast. If you like geeky side of things and film and TV, we talk about that stuff too. So anyway, I'm Ed C. Switch, and thank you, Scott, once again. We already said that 5 times. I never know how to end it, do I? So this
It's all right.
You're
welcome, Ed. The end.
The end. All right. Bye.
See ya.